Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and honored that you are part of our mission to help families grow closer together through reading. Today we'll be joined by two of the authors of Voces Sin Fronteras, Our Stories, Our Truth, true comics from Latin American youth. Our guests are Erminia and Tania. They'll be joined by Kathy Crutcher. They'll be here to tell their immigration journey and to remind us that no matter where you stand on this issue, very important issue, what we're talking about are human beings that deserve our love and our respect. Before we invite our guests into the studio, we want to remind you of a special series of episodes launching on April 22nd, Earth Day. It's called Protecting the Earth with Your Kids. We're really excited about this. My co-host for the series will be Alexia Brown. She'll be introducing us to some authors who will be telling us about climate change, why we should care about it, what we can tell our kids about it, and what we can do as families to help protect the earth. It all starts on Earth Day, April 22nd, 2021. I'm really, really excited to welcome our guests today. Really excited. They're all coming to us from the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. Please welcome to the show the authors and editors from Voces Sin Fronteras, Our Stories, Our Truth, true comics from Latin American Youth Center. Please welcome to the show Erminia, Tania, and Kathy Crutcher. Kathy, Tania, Erminia, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing awesome.
Great.
Great. That first voice you heard was Kathy. Erminia came in second, and then Tania came in third. And that was their choice. We didn't stack them up like that. It wasn't a race. I'm going to begin. Kathy, can you just tell us about the project and how it got started, please?
Sure. So I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit based here in Washington, D.C. called Shout Mouse Press. And we are a writing program and a publishing house dedicated to amplifying underheard voices. So that means that we provide opportunities for young people anywhere ages 12 to 24 who are from backgrounds and identities that are often marginalized and spoken about, but not given a chance to speak for themselves. We give them an opportunity to tell their own stories and their own voices through publication. So we publish their books and share them with the world. So that's Shout Mouse. And we reached out to the Latin American Youth Center here in Washington, D.C. In late 2016 is when we reached out. This was, as you may remember, a time of pretty extreme and increased xenophobic language and policies, especially around immigrants from Central America. And we wanted to ensure that young people from these communities had a chance to tell their own stories and speak for themselves. So we reached out to the Latin American Youth Center, and they connected us to this incredible group of young people who had formed something called the Latino Youth Leadership Council. And Erminia might be best to explain what the Latino Youth Leadership Council is all about.
Yeah, please do, Erminia.
I'm so happy to talk about our group. So the Latino Youth Leadership Council is a group of about 40 different immigrant students that go to DC schools. All of them attend to high school. Now many of them are in college, but all of them were learning about leadership, organizing events, and mobilizing community, knowing the support that we need from the community. So we're all together trying to find solutions to support each other. So now it's a big group to support each other. We're looking for solutions. And it's a group that was found with the purpose of supporting newcomers to the United States. and also to educate other people so they can see what our immigrants really are and that we are fighting here for our dreams.
That's really, it's so important, I think, for you to be here and to be sharing your experiences and letting the world see who you are. Tania, could you take a minute before I go into it, because both Erminia and Tania shared their stories in this graphic novel. Could you tell us what the title of the book, and I know I butchered the pronunciation, I apologize, but what does Voces Sin Fronteras mean for you?
So we decided to name our book Voces Sin Fronteras because, like Erminia said, so people, usually the authors of the book are from Central America and the Caribbean, and we wanted to share stories to show that there is not such a thing as a barrier when it comes to succeeding, and we just wanted to share stories to let people know that no matter where you're coming from, you have the chance and you have the opportunity to speak for yourself.
Really important. Tania, you wrote your comic was called "Don't Believe Everything You Think." And when I first saw the title, I thought that title was directed at me. Don't believe everything you think about me, and I want you to have your mind open. But I was wrong. As I read it, it was actually you were kind of telling yourself that. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. So I decided to name the part of the book, my story, no, don't believe everything you said, because when I first came to the U.S., I thought that I was never going to learn the language. And I just kept telling myself that that's impossible. It's a hard language. I don't have the support that I wish I had. And I just kept telling myself that. And I feel like that was like a big thing that got in my way at first. So it took me like a while to change my mentality and to believe that I was able to do whatever I wanted to, as long as I work hard enough.
Yeah. Americans have this really bad reputation, and I think it's earned. When folks from the U.S. travel around the world, they kind of expect people to speak English. One of the things that I've discovered in my limited travel around the world, and it's mostly been to Central America and the Caribbean, is if I make the effort to learn a little bit, to be able to say hello in the native language, and I'm sorry, but I don't speak your language. Could you help me in English? That breaks down a lot of walls. People are much more willing to speak to me and to develop a friendship with me if I come to them and I say to them, I'm kind of vulnerable right here. I respect that this is your land and this is your language, and I'm sorry I don't speak it. Can you help me? And people are much more willing to help out. But I guess a lot of Americans just show up going, hey, what do you mean you don't speak English? I'm here. Take care of me. And because of that kind of arrogance, I don't think people understand just how vulnerable you feel when you are in a different nation and aren't able to speak. And I'm imagining when you arrived here at a much younger age, that must have been incredibly intimidating for you.
Yes, it was, especially because so the first system that I was encountering when I came to the U.S. was school. Mm-hmm. So I would consider myself a good student. Ever since I was a kid, I really care a lot about school. So my biggest fear was getting bad grades because of the language. Because I know that I knew that I was capable of like doing great in school, but then I thought the language is getting on my way. So what I'm gonna do? So like as a kid, I was really worried about my grades because I knew that they're very important for the things that I wanted to do in the future, which is like now going to college and eventually get my dream job.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to tell us what your dream job is?
Yes. So I want to be a doctor. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've only had a chance to speak to you for a few minutes, but I I can sense this drive and determination and confidence in you. I have no doubt that you are going to make that dream come true.
Thank you.
Yeah. Erminia, you wrote your comic, which leads off the story, is very powerful. It's called I Cross Barriers to Change Myself. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'm happy to do it. So I decided to name it I Cross Barriers to Change Myself because first, in life, you have to make a lot of sacrifice to be able to change your future, to change yourself. So I did it based on the decision of leaving my home country, my beautiful home country, my family and my sister, to come to the United States with the purpose of getting a better education. Because there I was happy, living with my family, being united all together, but I didn't find any value on me because I thought it was going to be impossible to continue education. So I made the decision at the age of 15 years old to make a journey to the U.S., putting my life at risk. But the only thing that we can do is to believe in ourselves, because if we believe in ourselves, we're going to make it happen, whatever it is. So I decided to do it based on my journey because that experience changed my life. It taught me about thinking more about myself. What is my purpose of being in this life? What do I have to do? So now that I'm here, it was a long journey of 22 days. Now my purpose, I found out that is to help others, immigrant youth, to also welcome them in this country and support them in anything that they need. Because when we get here, we don't know anybody. We are starting a new life. And I know how it feels when someone helps you, even if it's a teacher or from your community. So I found out that my purpose in life is to support others, immigrant youth.
Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I know that when my family immigrated here from Ireland, they arrived here in Canada and in Boston. And I know it was the fact that there was a very strong Irish-American community here that helped them and helped lift them up. And it sounds like you are following those footsteps, helping your folks from Central America come here and find new lives in the United States. Erminia, you shared in your story a little bit about the journey. And I think if it's okay, I would think it would be important for folks to understand. You're not talking about hopping on a plane. Like when I went to visit Costa Rica and Panama, I hopped on this plane and the people were wonderful and it was comfortable. And then just, a few hours later, I'm in a different country. Your experience coming here to the United States was different. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So my experience was a little bit different. It was hard, but at the same time, it was a good experience. So my journey was 22 days. I tried 2 times. The first time, I got arrested in Mexico. I was in a detention center for 1 week. Then I was sent back to my home country, and the same day I decided to try again. So in the second time, I was able to cross the desert, walking 3 days and 2 nights without knowing anybody at the age of 15 years old. And the only thing that I remember having with me was my hope. I was repeating it every day, every night, every minute. I have to do it. I left my family because I'm going to be successful. I'm going to go to college. And I'm going to return being a different person, being professional, helping others. So that journey was hard because I passed a lot of different challenges. Being by myself, walking for days, being scared that anything that happened to me. But at the same time, it was an experience that helped me to be a strong person. At the age of 15, I realized that I did that sacrifice because I had to do something different. I had to change the culture of my family, of women, basically of women. Most of my country, women have the stereotype of staying at home, having children and everything, and they think that they cannot do anything else. So now I'm here going to college. My bigger dream is to be an immigration attorney. So that journey was hard, but at the same time, it made me feel proud because I was able to make it. I did it, and I know that many of young people can also do it, and it will help them to change their lives.
I think it's important for people listening And if you have to push stop and rewind this, Erminia, you told us that at 15 years old, you set out by yourself and you walked across the desert for days. I think it's important for us to understand, no matter where you fall on the issue of immigration, it's really important for us to understand just how incredibly dangerous that journey was and how incredibly brave you are.
Yeah, thank you. So the only thing that I can say is that in order to be successful in life, you have to take the risk. And sometimes even putting your life at risk, but that's the only option that we have. Mm-hmm. Because I could stay back in my home country. It's a beautiful country. My family is there. But what was going to be my future? Not going to school, staying at home, doing nothing. So I took the risk, putting my life at risk to change my future, my family future, and change other people's lives. So in order to have a better future, to be successful, you need to take some risk.
Well, I do know that's the risk that my grandparents took to change the course of our family's lives. I think it's important for us to talk about your countries. Tania, can you tell us, you don't have to tell us your country, but can you just tell us what life was like in your country?
Yes. So I'm from Guatemala, and well, in my experience, I'm glad that I had a good childhood thanks to my parents who are hardworking. They gave me everything I needed. Like I didn't have more than what I needed, but I just had enough to survive. But also, I would say that I was pretty happy, but also I was aware of my surroundings. While I was playing with my friends, I could see other kids same age were working, they were begging for money, they were helping their parents. And it's just really sad seeing the contrast of my life and then seeing how other kids were living, because they were supposed to be playing like I was when I was a kid, but they didn't have the opportunity because of the circumstances and the way they grew up.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that there are kids that have to go out on the street, and not only in Guatemala, all over the world, that have to go out on the street and beg. And I think that's something that those of us here in North America and those of us here in different parts of Europe and wealthy countries have to realize that we are so blessed. Erminia, you were telling us that you needed to come here. You felt you needed to come here because there were no opportunities for you to get that higher education. Is it just culturally something that women don't do in your country, or is it they're actually just forbidden from seeking higher education?
There is a lot of challenges there. One is the culture, but also the economic situation. Mm-hmm. You cannot pay college by yourself out there when you only get like $5 for working a whole day. And the violence also. I wasn't confident taking the bus for 30 minutes by myself because it was too dangerous. So basically, it's a lot of different things that connect, that you can get a higher education. There are a few students that are able to do it, but most of them they can't mm-hmm. because of these situations. Mm-hmm. So that's why I decided to look for a better future and come to the U.S.
Yeah. Erminia, what was so you set out at 15, you made the decision, I'm going to come here. I'm going to take that incredibly dangerous journey to come here to the United States. So what was your impression of the United States? What was it like in the United States in your imagination?
Right. So when I was there, I remember that when I made the decision, I was having a lot of emotions. I didn't know how it was going to be. I just knew that I want to have a better opportunities. But in my mind, I saw a different country full of family together, speaking the same language. I didn't know that I had to learn a new language. I didn't know that I was going to meet other cultures. I didn't know that there were a lot of immigrants here. So at my home country, I can say that I was living in a bubble, that I didn't know anything outside my house surrounding me. But when I came here, it was an open mind. I started school. I got here, and I started school without knowing any English. I remember the teacher asked me, "What is your name?" And I didn't know what to respond. So I was so frustrated. And in my mind, I was like, this is not the United States that I was looking for. This is not what I imagined. I thought it was going to be different. But I realized that in order to get something, you have to put the work on it. You have to make a lot of sacrifice. So at the end, it's a country that is full of opportunities, but it's also a lot of injustice. When I got here, I started seeing a lot of family being separated, immigrant children being treated injustice. So it was an open mind coming to this country, and also open eyes to start seeing around it, to start caring about others.
Wow. What about you, Tania? What was your vision of the United States, and how did that line up with the reality once you were here?
Well, since I was really young, I didn't really have a lot of expectations. So all I knew was based on what my parents told me. So I thought it was going to be more like strict that people only like speak English, and like the opportunities for other immigrants were very limited. But then when I came here, I realized that it was the opposite. There's actually a lot of people who speak Spanish. Even people in my school and my professors, they were very nice, and there are a lot of opportunities that you can take advantage of.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Tania, what do you miss most about your home country?
I would say being more like stress-free because here in the U.S., I feel like everything is just like a routine. Like, yes, people are successful if they work hard, but also I feel like they live so stressed, and even if they have all the opportunities and they have the essential things to live, I feel like they are so focused on what they're doing that they forget about other things. Like when I was in Guatemala, I remember that I was never aware of the days, when was Monday and when was Saturday. In here, like I feel like I'm looking at the time, just thinking about what I'm going to do next.
Yes, I'm afraid that's a lot of people are experiencing that. They're making that choice, which is too bad. Erminia, we was telling you before the show that this is a podcast that the people who listen to this are parents, and we've really encouraged parents to read with their kids, and not only with their babies sitting on the couch, cuddled up together, reading a picture book, but I think it's really important for families to continue to read with their kids as they are become independent readers, as they get into middle school, as they get into high school, to sit down and co-read and listen to audiobooks together and talk about different books. I found Voces Sin Fronteras because I wanted to co-read it with my niece. What do you want people listening to this to know about you, and why do you think it's important for a family to come together and know your story?
So for anybody who is listening to this podcast, what I will tell you is to don't judge people because how they look. First, you need to know their stories. You need to know who they are. Because sometimes we judge immigrants and we make a general statement. But everyone is different. And in this book is an example of who we really are. We cross challenges. We cross barriers. But at the end, we're successful. Not because we were lucky, but because we tried hard to do it. And I also want to tell you that educate your children so they can have a better perspective of who immigrants are. Because there's a huge problem in this country that many people don't educate themselves. And they judge others, not because they know who they are, but because they just hear from others. So do research for yourself to get to know who they are. And if there is any young people who's listening to this, any immigrants, I just want to tell you that if we were able to do it, you also can do it. Doesn't matter what you're going through, but you're going to make it happen because you have an example of 16 different youth who made it happen, even though there were a lot of challenge, a lot of sacrifice. But if you have faith in yourself, if you believe in yourself, you're going to be successful. Just persist and do the right thing that you have to do.
Boy, Kathy, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to these two incredible young women. I'm listening to Erminia, and she's telling me that her dream is to become an immigration attorney. I tell you, I don't know it doesn't matter what kind of legal trouble I would be facing. That is the warrior that I would like speaking up for me. Boy, talk about a fearsome, courageous person. If I needed an attorney, I think Erminia would be the one that I turn to.
100%. I mean, all I can say is how honored and how much I have learned from these young people. I think Tania and Erminia here, but also the 14 other young people who are profiled in this book, that each one of them moved me in incredible ways with their determination and their resilience and their grace, frankly, in the face of pretty enormous challenges, both perhaps in their own country that made them make the difficult decision to come here, but also when they came here. And so I am just thankful for all that I personally have learned from them, and I know how valuable that is for other families out there to be hearing directly from these young people themselves.
Yeah. It's really important when we hear these stories on the news, when we're seeing sound bites and pictures, and we're just reading maybe a 200-word article in a newspaper. It doesn't tell the whole story. I'm concerned that we don't have an open mind. I'm also concerned that there are kids like Erminia right now in Central America who are making the decision, wow, I need to leave. And I don't want them to have to go and risk their lives to go through the desert. I'd like us to come together so that there are opportunities for kids all over the world. Tania, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be an incredible doctor, I know. But if you had a magic wand, because I do educational magic shows around the country, and I've been doing it for 30 years, and so I go on stage and I make it look like things appear out of nowhere and disappear. They're just magic tricks. But if I gave you a magic wand that had real magic power, and you were able to wave that magic wand and change the world and change the world for people like you and Erminia, who feel that they need to come to the United States or to, go from Africa to Italy and risk their lives crossing the sea. What would you do to change the world?
I would definitely improve the education system and the economy, because I feel like those are the main factors why a lot of people make the decision, even though, like Erminia said, they love their countries, but it's kind of like it's not an option. They have to. It's either because they can't find a job, they can't give their family the life, like a decent life, and also, like in my case, like looking for a better education. So if all the countries all around the world had a better economy and an education, I feel like people would not feel the need to leave their countries.
Yeah. Erminia, I know that you haven't been here for a long time, but do you think it's possible? Do you think that Tania's dream is possible? Do you think that we can come together as a family of human beings to make sure that there are opportunities, that there are resources, so that everybody can make their dreams come true wherever they are at that moment?
I'm pretty sure it's possible, and I have always said that it's better to be together than being alone. And it can be possible. It will be a long process where a lot of people have to come together to make it happen. But I feel that you want to do something, you have the vision, you focus, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Kathy, I'm curious with Shoutmouth Press. What other projects are you working on?
Well, let's see. We have 45 books out thus far. So Voces Sin Fronteras is just one of many. We have done a children's book series. It's a diverse and inclusive children's book series with a mission of ensuring that all young people can see themselves represented on the page. And so we have 32 picture books for kind of ages kindergarten through second grade. We have also worked with Muslim American students. That was one of our more recent young adult books, where these were all Muslim American young people who are writing about what it's like to be young and Muslim in America today. They were writing through the course of 2018 as there was a new Muslim ban enforced on traveling. And so I would highly recommend their collection as well for families that are interested in learning more about talking with kids, especially about kind of xenophobic or racist rhetoric that they might hear. That collection is called I Am the Night Sky. And then we've done memoir collections with young people here in Southeast DC, talking about the challenges that they have overcome and resilience there. We are working on our next project, hopefully to come out in 2022, will be a collection by Asian American youth. So we are always very responsive to what's going on in the world around us and ensuring that young people especially from directly affected communities, have that platform, that opportunity to speak for themselves.
Well, that's really wonderful. And, Tania, Erminia, I know that writing books is not something, that you're both on different paths. And I'm really happy that you were able to take part in this book. But one of the things we talk about here in the podcast, and we didn't create the idea that books should be, books can be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. A book is something that a child should be able to see themselves portrayed in positively. So looking in a mirror, a book should be a window so kids who are different can see other kids who are different and kind of understand their lives. And also books should be like a sliding glass door so people can go through it and interact with one another. And I think that your stories and the other stories in Voces Sin Fronteras provide that mirror, that window, that sliding glass door that hopefully will allow us as a country and as a human family to come together to better understand each other and to love each other. And so I'm really happy that you are part of our show today. Before we go, I just want to give you a chance. Tania, do you have any last words that you want our audience to know?
Yes. So I just want people to know that my story specifically reflects also the story of other immigrants when they come to the U.S. And unfortunately, not all of us have the same opportunities to learn the language. And we often see, like on social media, people being racist to others, telling them to speak English because this is America. And I just think that's like a lot of ignorance, because we don't know how hard people are trying to. They don't have the same priorities. They don't have the same opportunities. And imagine if for a kid not knowing English, it is so frustrating. So you can imagine how it feels like for an adult. And then having other person or other group of people like pressuring you and making you feel less because you don't speak the language. And it's usually not because it's an option, because I feel like if we all had the opportunity to learn the language, all of us will be bilingual. Yeah. So it's not like people, like they really decide, oh, I don't want to learn English. No, They really can't because of whatever reason they might have.
Well, I have to tell you, Tania, I would never say that to you because I'm sitting here listening. I've been trying to learn how to speak Spanish for longer than you've been alive. And, there's just no comparison. Like I told you before we started recording, I know a lot of bad Spanish words, but I can't. I can have very simple conversations with folks. So, I agree with you. We need to be open-minded. And understand, if anybody comes up to you today and says anything about your accent, I mean, my goodness, you are articulate, you you were bilingual. That is a plus. That should be something we encourage for everybody to do, is become bi and trilingual. And, Erminia, do you have any last words for our audience?
Yes, I do. So, something that I will tell you is to always remember who you are, the values that you have, and it doesn't matter what you're going through. You have the example from us, from immigrants people. We know all of them are welcome. We are immigrants, and we are giving you an example that you can do whatever you want to do. You just have to put the effort, the time, and the work. So you can also make it happen as we are doing it. We learn new language, we cross a lot of barriers, and here we are, ready to change the country, because if we're successful, the country is going to be successful also. But guess what? There is a lot of injustice. Not everyone gets the same opportunities. But just be open-minded, willing to listen and willing to learn, but also to share with others. If you read this book, don't also be by yourself or not sharing with others. The purpose is that you can also help others. And you can do it throughout this book. Share it with them.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said. If you are successful, that's better for the country. If we help each other succeed, President Kennedy said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that's something that we should all strive to do, to help each other be as successful and as happy as we can be. Before we go, Kathy, can you tell everybody where people can go to find out more about Shout Mouth Press and about Voces Sin Fronteras?
Sure. Well, the easiest place is on our website. We're shoutmousepress.org. That's mouse as in like Mickey Mouse, squeak, squeak. And you can purchase Voces Sin Fronteras there from the website. There's also some stories and anecdotes and photos of the process of writing that book. I should say that these young people also, they give author talks virtually and in person. So they go into classrooms, community centers, literary festivals, university classes, and speak about their book. So there's also links on our website for requesting authors for an author talk. And I want to make sure that your listeners know that the proceeds for these books, they are all split between empowering new young people to tell their stories and to go to a scholarship fund. So that the Latino Youth Leadership Council runs, called the Voces Sin Fronteras Scholarship Fund. And that is to support other immigrant young people to access higher education. So purchasing these books is also supporting other young people like Erminia and Tania to pursue their dreams.
Well, we've had a really wonderful time speaking with the authors of Voces Sin Fronteras, Tania, Erminia, and Kathy Crutcher. My friends, thank you so much for being on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you. Really grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you for having us here.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Rajani LaRocca. She'll be here to celebrate the 7 golden rings and red, white, and whole. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Chris, I want to thank our guests, Erminia and Tania, and their publisher, Kathy Crutcher. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Alexia Brown, Hannah Pat Oboyski. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to your kids about important issues like immigration and justice and protecting our planet. But most of all, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.